Have you ever wondered how far our Neanderthal image is from reality? Forget the stereotypes of crude, primitive creatures. What if I told you that these freaks of nature were much smarter, more inventive, and more cultured than we could ever have imagined? We grew up hearing stories about how Homo sapiens easily surpassed and supplanted Neanderthals. But is it true? Modern science, based on decades of archaeological and genetic research, reverses these ideas. Get ready to learn the truth, which will make you take a fresh look at our mysterious relatives. Neanderthals successfully survived for hundreds of thousands of years in the harsh Ice Age conditions of Europe and Western Asia. From France to the Middle East, excavations reveal more and more evidence of their complex life. They were skilled hunters, skilled artisans, and perhaps possessed the rudiments of art and symbolic thinking. So why did scientists think of Neanderthals as primitive for so long? You wouldn't believe how sophisticated their survival methods and culture were. Do you want to know how Neanderthals challenge our understanding of human development? Watch the video until the end. We will debunk the most popular myths and show why Neanderthals were among the most successful hominins in the history of our planet. When we talk about Neanderthals, the first thing that comes to mind is their stocky build. And this is no accident. They were literally engineered to survive the harsh conditions of the Eurasian Ice Age, which spanned vast territories from the Iberian Peninsula to Siberia. Their robust build, broad chest, massive bones, and relatively short limbs are not a sign of primitiveness, but a brilliant adaptation to the cold. For example, studies of the remains found in the famous La Chapelle-aux-Seine cave in France at the beginning of the 15th century showed surprisingly powerful bones, indicating great physical strength and constant exertion. It was a body type that allowed for efficient heat storage. Why would a modern person sitting in an office need such power? These physical traits helped conserve heat by reducing the body's surface area relative to mass. Think of thermoregulation. The more compact and massive a body is, the less heat it loses in cold climates. This was critical in an environment where temperatures could drop well below freezing and shelters were primitive. In addition, their powerful bones and musculature were ideally suited for close-range hunting of large prey, such as huge mammoths, woolly rhinos, bison, and wild horses, requiring tremendous strength, endurance, and readiness for direct collision with dangerous animals. Archaeological findings, including numerous broken animal bones with traces of butchering with stone tools, as well as characteristic injuries on the skeletons of the Neanderthals themselves, reminiscent of the injuries of modern rodeo cowboys, confirm their active participation in such dangerous hunts. They didn't just chase their prey, they made direct contact with it using short, heavy spears. It required incredible coordination and fearlessness. Their lives were filled with physical labor and constant trials, which formed their unique anatomy. But could these rough creatures be real engineers? Look further to find out the answer to this question. Who says Neanderthals were primitive in making tools? This is one of the most common myths that has long been dispelled by modern archaeological data. Neanderthals were skilled craftsmen of the Mousterian culture, named after the site of Le Moustier in France, where numerous artifacts demonstrating their technological genius were found in the 19th century. They developed the sophisticated Levallois technique, an advanced method of stone processing at the time. This method allowed you to first carefully prepare the stone core, and then with one precise blow, break off the workpiece of the desired shape and size. This is not just a stone carving process, but a complex multi-stage process that requires a deep understanding of the properties of stone, spatial thinking, planning, and high accuracy of movements. Would you be able to make such a tool on your first attempt without modern training and tools? The resulting blanks were then refined by Neanderthals to create sharp scrapers, knives, chisels, and spearheads. These tools were highly effective not only for hunting and butchering animal carcasses, but also for processing hides, which was critical for creating warm clothing, shelters, and other items necessary for survival. Discoveries at such iconic sites as the Kibera Cave in Israel, where perfectly preserved Mousterian tools were discovered, show their versatility and adaptability. Neanderthals didn't just break rocks. They created specialized tools for specific tasks, demonstrating a level of intelligence and technical skill comparable to early Homo sapiens. Their tools were adapted to their needs and environment, allowing them to use resources efficiently and cope with the challenges of the Ice Age. These tools didn't just help them survive, They shaped their culture and helped develop their cognitive abilities. But how did they communicate if it was assumed that they did not have developed speech? Can a modern person, accustomed to the incessant noise of the city, even hear something in the wild, hostile nature? Or will he just become someone's uncomplaining breakfast? Watch this video until the end to find out what other terrifying challenges await. A key piece of evidence for their ability to speak is the discovery of an almost completely preserved hyoid bone of a Neanderthal in the Kabara cave in Israel in 1983. This bone, which is located in the throat and is not connected to other bones of the skeleton, is identical in shape and structure to that of modern humans. The hyoid bone plays a key role in the movement of the tongue and articulation of sounds, which is a necessary condition for the formation of articulate speech. If they had the same bone as us, then why wouldn't they talk? In addition, a more in-depth analysis of the structure of the skull and hearing aid of Neanderthals, conducted with the help of modern computer technologies, indicates their ability to perceive and produce a wide range of sounds, similar to what is available to modern humans. This means that their vocal apparatus was able to produce the complex sounds needed for a full-fledged language. The ability to communicate complexly is the foundation for developing a complex social structure, effectively transferring knowledge from generation to generation, and planning collective big game hunting, as well as sharing information about resources and hazards. All these aspects of Neanderthal life suggest the presence of a developed language. Imagine hearing a Neanderthal man tell stories around a campfire or explain the technique of making a tool. This will change your perception of them forever and show how much they were like us in their ability to communicate. But could these savages take care of their sick and even bury the dead? Watch this video below to find out the answer to this question. And here is one of the most amazing facts that completely changes our understanding of Neanderthals. They were not solitary. They lived in groups and took care of their relatives. This radically contradicts the image of cruel, primitive creatures. The discovery of skeletons of old or injured Neanderthals, such as the famous old man from Shanidar in Iraq, Shanidar I, who had multiple injuries, including amputated arm, partial blindness, and severe arthritis, but still lived many years after receiving these injuries, is a clear indication of social support and altruism. It was almost telepathy, based on a deep understanding of each other's intentions and years of experience working together. Try a coordinated attack on the mammoth using only primitive sounds and body movements. Your modern capacity for verbal communication, complex discussions, and abstract thinking will be completely useless here. In addition to evidence of caring for the living, burials found in various caves, such as La Chapelle aux Seines in France, La Ferracie, also in France, and the same Shanidar, indicate a complex attitude to death and possibly the presence of ritual practices. Every move you make, every look you take, and every breath you take will matter, and you'll have to learn to read these signals to survive. A mistaken interpretation can cost not only your life, but also your entire group. Feel this tension, this unbearable responsibility, when each of your actions must be accurate and verified, without the right to make mistakes. Although there is some debate about the exact significance of these findings, they clearly refute the myth that Neanderthals lacked empathy, emotional attachment, or complex social organization. Their attitude to death indicates a developed inner world and the possible presence of spiritual ideas. This demonstrates a level of complexity that we have traditionally attributed only to Homo sapiens. If they were so socially developed, how did they manage their way of life during the Ice Age? Mining and maintaining fire in the Stone Age was a vital skill, without which survival in harsh environments would have been virtually impossible. And Neanderthals mastered it perfectly, and their skills were at a level comparable to early modern humans. At many sites, such as the famous Gorham Cave in Gibraltar, one of the last known Neanderthal sites, or the vast complexes at Cro-Magnon in France, archaeologists have found indisputable evidence of controlled use of fire. Carefully constructed hearths, layers of ash, burnt animal bones, and coals. Fire not only provided warmth, saving you from the freezing cold of the Ice Age, but also provided protection from predators, allowed you to cook food, making it not only more delicious, but also more digestible and safe, killing bacteria and parasites. In addition, the fire was the center of social life, a place where groups gathered, shared food, and shared knowledge and stories. Could these primitive creatures have been Stone Age architects? In addition to the active use of fire, Neanderthals were adept at creating and arranging dwellings. They actively used natural shelters, such as caves, turning them into comfortable and safe homes. However, when the caves were inaccessible or temporary parking was required, they showed amazing engineering ingenuity. Your body will betray you, and you will become easy prey for those who are stronger, hardier, and fitter. This is not a question of your will or desire. It is a question of your physiology, which has long been unaccustomed to the harsh reality of survival. These structures, often round or oval structures made of large animal bones, such as mammoth skulls and tusks, covered with skins and branches, were protected from wind, rain, and cold. They were the true engineers of their time, using the available natural resources to maximize the comfort and safety of their groups. These tools didn't just help you survive. They were extensions of human hands, allowing you to interact with the harsh, merciless nature. Remember that each weapon could break down at the most inopportune moment, and you did not have the opportunity to simply buy a new one. Until recently, it was thought that only Homo sapiens possessed symbolic thinking, the ability to think abstractly, perform rituals, and create art. This criterion has often been used to separate us and them, placing Neanderthals on a lower level. But new discoveries challenge this. The primitive craftsman did not just beat the stones. He heard them, felt their inner, hidden structure, creating the perfect tool with the minimum number of blows. It was a veritable symphony of stone, requiring not only strength, but also a deep primal intuition. The age of these finds is about 50,000 years, which precedes the mass appearance of Homo sapiens in this region. This indicates a sense of aesthetics and self-expression. Could this mean that they created not only jewelry, but also real works of art? Even more striking are the findings in other caves in Spain, Maltravieso, Ardales, and La Pasiega. Cave paintings have been discovered there that, according to modern dating methods, the uranium-thorium method, are more than 64,000 years old. This makes them the oldest examples of rock art in the world, significantly predating the arrival of Homo sapiens in Europe. Their appearance dates back to about 45,000 years ago. The drawings include geometric shapes, handprints, and obscure symbols created with red pigment. This indicates that Neanderthals may have developed a strong sense of aesthetics, self-expression, and perhaps even ritual practices or ways of communicating information through symbols. This is an absolute break in the pattern, because for a long time such abilities were attributed exclusively to our species. If they painted and decorated themselves, could they use the plants not only for food, but also for healing? Imagine that you have suffered a serious injury in the Stone Age, a broken bone, a deep cut, or severe inflammation. Your chances of survival would be minimal if it weren't for the Neanderthals. Modern studies of skeletons show that these cavemen not only cared for the wounded and sick relatives, but also perhaps actively used plants for medicinal purposes. This completely reverses the idea of their wildness. In the famous Shanidar cave in Iraq, where several Neanderthal burials were discovered, in one of them, Shanidar 4, the so-called flower burial, plant pollen accumulations were found. Among this pollen, species have been identified, some of which have known medicinal properties, such as yarrow, mother and stepmother, and kristovnik. Could Neanderthals have been the first pharmacists in human history? Although this is not direct, 100% proof of the purposeful use of plants in medicine, perhaps the flowers simply got into the burial site naturally or were used as bedding, it suggests serious thoughts about the knowledge of Neanderthals about the properties of plants. They probably had extensive empirical knowledge of what herbs could relieve pain, relieve inflammation, stop bleeding, or help with other ailments. Gibraltar evidence of bitter plants rich in salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin, and naturally occurring antibiotics was also found at their sites in Gibraltar. Moreover, analysis of the dental calculus of some Neanderthals showed the presence of charcoal particles in certain fungi known for their antibacterial properties, which may indicate attempts to self-treat infections. These were, in fact, the first pharmacists of mankind, using natural resources to maintain the health of their group. Their ability to observe, remember, and pass on such knowledge to the next generation indicates a high level of intelligence and adaptation. But if they were so clever, why does their hunting seem so primitive to us? Neanderthals weren't just strong hunters relying solely on brute force. They were true strategists, using sophisticated methods to extract food. They used a variety of hunting techniques, including sophisticated ambushes and perhaps even primitive but effective traps. Archaeological finds in places such as Le Vallonnais in France, where the remains of large animals such as wild horses and bison have been found, driven into narrow gorges or dead-end passages, as well as on cliffs, indicate coordinated actions of groups of hunters. This wasn't a chaotic chase, but a well-thought-out operation. How can a species capable of such complex coordination be called ugly? They didn't just throw spears at random, but they understood the animals' behavior, knew their migration routes, watering places, and hiding places. Neanderthals skillfully used features of the landscape ravines, cliffs, forest thickets, to organize collective hunting, driving prey into traps or to a place where it could be easily surrounded and killed. This process required not only incredible physical strength and endurance, but also a high level of intelligence, strategic planning, detailed knowledge of the environment, and impeccable communication within the group. They had to develop tactics, assign roles, make quick decisions, and coordinate their actions accurately. Skeletons of mammoths and other large animals found at Neanderthal sites, with signs of purposeful separation, are proof of their success in such large-scale hunting campaigns. Archaeological evidence suggests that Neanderthals, for example, used plants with antibacterial and analgesic properties. Analysis of tartar reveals the presence of charcoal particles in certain fungi that may have been used to treat infections. The diet of Neanderthals was much more diverse than we thought, and was not limited to mammoth and rhinoceros meat. While they were certainly skilled hunters and consumed a significant amount of meat, new research suggests that they also made heavy use of plant-based food. This changes the perception of them as purely predatory creatures. Analysis Zubnovo Naluda of Neanderthal dental plaque found in the famous El Cedron cave in Spain, as well as in Spey, Belgium, and other places, revealed traces of cereals, legumes, mushrooms, nuts, and various berries. This means that their diet was significantly more balanced than previously thought. The development of language and symbolic thinking, as evidenced by cave paintings and ornaments, made it possible to transfer knowledge and experience much more effectively. So why do we so often underestimate our ancestors? They weren't primitive. They were incredibly intelligent and wonderfully adaptable. They laid the foundation for everything we have. For example, studies have shown that Neanderthals in El Cedron ate wild olives and dates. This suggests that Neanderthals were not only predators, but also experienced gatherers who were well aware of their local flora, its edible and poisonous properties, as well as processing methods. They were able to balance their diets using seasonal resources, which was critical for survival in resource-limited and harsh climates. Their dietary diversity, based on a deep knowledge of the environment, highlights their flexibility and intelligence. If Neanderthals were so successful and adaptive, why did they disappear? Are we, Homo sapiens, the only culprits? If Neanderthals were so successful, intelligent, and adaptable, why did they disappear about 40,000 years ago? This is one of the greatest and most intriguing mysteries in the history of mankind, around which there is still a heated debate. Today, there is no single culpable reason for their disappearance. Most likely, it was a combination of factors acting synergistically. Climate change, sudden and frequent temperature fluctuations during the Ice Age, the so-called Heinrich and Dansgaard-Oeschger events, could have created enormous stress for Neanderthal populations. Although they were well adapted to the cold, their specialization may have made them less flexible to rapid and unpredictable environmental changes that affected the availability of prey and plant resources. Competition with Homo sapiens. The arrival of Homo sapiens in Europe around 45,000 years ago coincided with the beginning of the decline of Neanderthal populations. Although there is no direct evidence of large-scale wars between species, competition for resources, hunting grounds, flint mining sites, living space in caves, as well as more effective survival strategies, for example, greater mobility, the use of throwing weapons at a distance, on the part of Homo sapiens could play a crucial role. We were very similar, but we may have had our own small advantages, which turned out to be critical. Small populations. Neanderthals lived in small, disparate groups, making them more vulnerable to diseases, which could be brought by Homo sapiens. Genetic drift, loss of genetic diversity due to small population size, and random demographic events such as famine or natural disasters. Modern genetic studies have shown that their total population has never been high, probably not exceeding several tens of thousands of individuals in all of Eurasia. Mixing of genes. Interestingly, Neanderthals did not disappear without a trace. Genetic studies in recent years, led by scientists such as Svante Pääbo, have shown that most modern humans outside of Africa contain between 1% and 4% Neanderthal DNA. This is irrefutable evidence of interbreeding, hybridization, between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals in various parts of Eurasia. This means that they were not a dead-end branch that simply died out, but became part of our own genetic heritage, passing on genes related to immunity, hair color, skin color, and other traits. Are they not extinct, but simply dissolved in us, leaving their mark on each of us? This is the most shocking truth. We debunked the myths and showed that Neanderthals were far from freaks of nature. They were surprisingly intelligent, adaptive, and complex hominins that thrived in the harsh conditions of the Ice Age for hundreds of thousands of years. Their tools, social organization, possible language, and even symbolic thinking challenge our traditional understanding of human development. Their disappearance remains a mystery, but it certainly wasn't due to their primitiveness or inability to adapt. Most likely it was a complex interaction of climate change, competition, and, most importantly, genetic mixing with our own species. They didn't just disappear, they left a part of themselves in each of us. This reinterpreted view of Neanderthals helps us better understand our own history and recognize that human evolution is a much more complex and exciting process than we might have imagined. Appreciate this incredible heritage. What surprised you most about Neanderthals? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channels so you don't miss any new amazing facts about our shared history.